Yes, YouTube, hope that you're good. It's Ben Hawksworth at the Coach Consultant, and today I'm going to cover how to overcome sales call objections. And this is not just looking at the standard boring copy and paste practices, but actually how does an objection work in terms of its application, the principles behind it, and most importantly, what type of process do you need to put in place while you are actually live on the call. But most importantly, how do you actually get better at basically overcoming objections after the call with the type of structures that I'm going to talk about in this video. Again, if you are running a high ticket one-to-one service or you are doing any form of inbound kind of call structure, you are going to be faced with objections. And what I basically need you to look at this like is an objection isn't a negative thing in any way, shape or form. An objection is an opportunity for someone to get to know what you are doing on a deeper level alongside you to get to know them on a deeper level. And when you start to look at it from that type of perspective, you aren't concerned about objections coming up and you know exactly how to handle it, and most importantly, how to handle yourself on the call. So I'm going to jump onto a whiteboard and do a step-by-step process on how to conquer sales call objections. Right, so diving straight into it, we have got step number 1, and that is basically do not be using copy and pasted bullshit. So that is basically where people are coming in and it's like, oh, what's the cost to you of not doing this? Or, oh, it's only X amount of copy per week or per month. One, what you've got to take into account is how many of those type of objections and solutions or comebacks have been used before with that client. So they're going to be prepared for that kind of quick, easy bullshit. But then at the same time, it's really not getting to the root of the actual problem. And that is obviously the objection. When you've got an objection, it's someone either in terms of price normally, or it's going to be a objection in terms of them not understanding your program or their capabilities to actually achieve the result. So when you're coming in with a quick, oh, what's the cost to you of not doing it? Like it goes through me when I like hear that, or I see people promoting that as actual objection advice, and that's just not how you should be approaching the situation at all. So step number 2, this is going to be an exercise that I want you to do immediately after this call, and that is to actually start building out your objections vault, right? So your objections vault is something that you need to be processing and building for both basically old and new. So every single objection that you've ever had, write it down. Every single new objection that you get, write it down. So that basically means that you've got a vault of objections that you know are going to be coming up at some point. And it's your main priority to make sure that you are as trained as humanly possible in terms of how you actually respond to that objection when it is actually raised on a call. If you are, again, just coming in and just have no pre-structured objections or no pre-structured line of questioning and no solutions, then when someone comes at you and if you can't say something back or understand how to articulate and reframe what they're saying to you, then there's a high chance you are going to lose that sale, because that in essence is going to be a slight bit of a high pressure point, but you are not going to feel crazy high pressure if you know that you've prepared as much as humanly possible. The next thing is coming in on step 3, and that is basically where you will build out an objections line of questioning based on the objections vault. So whatever you wrote down as basically your old and new objections, what I want you to do from that point is I want you to write down 3 questions to ask that prospect about that objection. So whatever it is, and you don't need to be coming in and giving a solution in any way, shape or form, because when someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I want to, but X, or I'm not sure because of Y, or I tell you what, I need to go away and think about it because of Z, right? What I need you to do from that point is I need you to ask 3 questions to that prospect about that objection so you can start to understand it on a deeper level, right? You are not trying to come in and provide a solution for that person straight away. You are not trying to confront them or get any form of conflict and fight against what they're saying to you. All you are going to do is you're going to ask 3 questions specifically around that objection alone, because what that's going to allow to do is basically get into the deeper meaning of it. You're going to start to diagnose the objection, and most importantly, that person is actually going to start sitting and thinking about it and being under a little bit more pressure, because rather than just going, oh, okay, right, sweet. So when you start asking someone else more questions, naturally that's going to put them under a little bit more pressure rather than, again, just putting you back up straight away or just, again, and admitting defeat as soon as that objection comes through, and that's just not what we want at all. From that point, what I basically want you to do is go into step 4, and that is where you will basically come in and you will create a solution for the line of questions, right? So again, at this point, as you can basically see, so you're not using copy and paste bullshit techniques, you are creating your objections bank around your old and new acquisition and appointments. From that point, you are going to move into a line of questioning around those individual objections in that bank, alongside looking at minimum 3 questions that you ask to find out that basically on a deeper meaning. From that point, what I basically want you to do is I want you to answer the questions with a solution inside your actual program, right? Because when you start asking someone further questions around that objection, they're going to come back to you with something. All you need to do from that point is have the ability to turn around and go, well, we've got a solution for that in our program, or we've got a solution for that in our service. We've got a solution for that in terms of how we check in, how we do touch points, how we do goal setting, how we do planning, how we have got online education, or whatever it may be. Whatever your actual program is, you will turn around and you will use an asset when, well, what you've just said there is that we actually do support with that, and we support with that, and we support with this. But you're not going to get to that point unless you have asked the line of questions, right? When we are then coming down to the objection which is associated with price, this is without question, the single biggest objection that's going to be brought forward to you, right? All I want you to basically do when someone comes to you with a price objection is focus on diagnosis. You are not trying to provide a solution for that person. You are trying to diagnose a price prior to actually looking at any type of solutions or payment structures in any way, shape or form. So what you'll basically normally have when it's someone coming up with a price objection, you've got one hand, which is the fact that it's just a surface level problem and there's basically a bit of a conflict and disconnection between your price to value discrepancy basically. So when someone's coming and they mention price to you, it's because they potentially don't see the value in what you're doing. So that there is something that you can diagnose to get to the bottom of it and find a solution on it. And then on the other hand, you basically got the people who genuinely just can't afford it. So in terms of the people who can't afford it, that is going to be the fact that it might be because you've presented an incentive-based 12-month payment up front and they can't afford that. Sweet, let's look to pitch 6 months at them. Oh, they can't afford that. Sweet, let's look to pitch 3 months at them. Oh, well, they still can't afford the 3 month in full. Right, that's when we drop down onto a monthly payment structure. And if they can't afford that, then you can look at another one. But what you've basically got there is someone coming to you because they do not see the value in the program, or is someone coming to you with an objection because they simply just can't afford it? If someone's coming to you because they don't see the value of the problem, that's where you need to focus on as much diagnosis and line of questioning as humanly possible to find the actual root cause of why they feel a disconnect to the value associated with what you're offering to them. If someone comes to you and they are saying that price is the biggest problem to them, then you basically need to run another diagnosis on that, going, right, look, is it in terms of how we are structuring payments? Is it the fact that it's 12 months? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Do they need to be looking at a different custom structure? So you pay a little bit more now and then it's a monthly retainer after that. So if you're more concerned about what's coming out per month. So you've got like 3 or 4 points to kind of bring your price down in terms of an actual structure without actually bringing your price down. So that's where a lot of people go wrong with this, is they will come and go, oh, I can't afford that. Oh, sweet, well, I'll drop it to £200 a month, or drop it to £150 a month. Don't do that. Always try and pitch the biggest program and then work down to a point where someone goes, bing, yeah, I can afford that. You're not charging any less. You've just basically presented a different payment structure and how they can obviously sign up to you from that point. But when it comes to the price objection on the left hand side, if it's a disconnect between you and the service and value, for example, all you need to do is just go. So in terms of like, right, you obviously come and you've objected about price, like, do you understand our offer? Do you understand potential results that you're going to get? Yeah, I completely understand that. Right, sweet. So based on what we just spoke about with your journey and your goals and your pain points, for example, like, do you feel like you could get there on your own? Like, what's the reason for me on the call right now? Oh, well, no, I definitely can't get there on my own. So sweet, right, when we're looking, do you know what I mean? All you need to do is you come in, you're asking further questions around that. But one of the best exercises, without question, is simply just having 1, 2, and 3, right? And an area that I always say to fitness professionals is you want to focus on prevention rather than intervention as much as humanly possible. So when we're looking at a sales call, for example, a huge element is going to be diagnosis. A huge element is going to be line of questioning. So for example, if you actually approach your sales call in the actual correct format, you'll have more than likely spoke about any objections or any roadblocks or any problems that they're going to experience getting to their actual goal. So if you approach your sales call in the right way, all that's going to be left at the bottom is the actual price point, and then from the price point you've got to figure out, is it heads or is it tails? That's basically, but is it tails and they literally can't afford it, or is it heads and they're actually just got another reason because they don't see the value in what you're offering? That is all this comes down to. Whereas if you come in and the only comeback that you've got is, what's the cost to you of not doing this? Or for example, it's only 1.65 Starbucks coffees a day or whatever it is. Like, it's not going to have strength to behind it. It's not going to have conviction. It's not going to have authority. So really go out of your way as much as humanly possible to actually diagnose, create more line of questioning, and then get down to that kind of tail flip. Is it because of the fact that someone can't afford it? If they can't afford it, mint, let's look at different payment structures without dropping your price. If it's the fact that they can afford it but don't see value in what you're doing, then that's when you diagnose that and make sure that you reframe everything and you explain everything. If you have to go over your product 3 or 4 times or program 3 or 4 times alongside showing even more results to get that sale, you do whatever's fucking necessary to get that sale. One thing that you'll also notice is I'm not coming in and absolutely hammering someone on loads of pain points in any way, shape or form. Yes, pain points will be brought up and problems when you start diving into the line of questioning and starting to look at actual diagnosis, but I would not be coming up and actually resurfacing and targeting them the moment that someone's come up with an objection, because that's going to get the back up straight away. What I would be doing instead is I'd be, again, making sure that I prepare as much as possible for the type of objections I'm going to be getting, but then also making sure that I've got a preset structure in terms of how I'm going to actually ask them questions with a line of questioning to articulate myself right, to reframe it right, and then most importantly associate that back to what I'm actually doing in terms of our program to find the solution, obviously. So if you've enjoyed this video, drop it a like. If you've got any comments, drop in some comments. If you want to find out a little more about what we do at the Coach Consultant, there's a link somewhere in my bio. If not, I'll see you in the next video.